In this video, I'm going to talk about the burnout trap. This is the trap that can happen when we're not expecting it. When we're going along, we're juggling so much stuff and it just starts to add up. In this video, I'm going to talk about the signs of burnout, what's actually happening, and ways that we can ensure that we're checking in with ourselves and preventing or reducing the risk of burnout. Welcome to the channel. My name is Lee Eldridge. I'm a human performance coach that specialises in working and supporting dads. I spent about 12 years working in professional sports, learning how to stress my athletes to the max to ensure that they were able to develop and improve. Now what I'm doing is I'm working with dads to help them manage and tolerate the stresses that they go under. As I've touched upon, burnout is a huge area of discussion and concern, not just for dads, but everybody across the world. And why is this happening? Well, we're demanding more of ourselves. We have this perception that people are doing more and more, and we need to compete. And this can be a big concern and get us stuck in what I call the burnout trap. Now, a trap is something that just kind of springs on us, and burnout can be something like that, but normally it's not. And what I would say is burnout is not just because of the amount of hours or work that you are doing. It's much more complex than that, because we know that if we're working on a project that we love and we enjoy, we can push ourselves to the max. And it's not unheard of. As dads, especially if we're in business, we are emotionally attached to that job. That's the stuff of passions, of dreams that we've worked so hard to get to that there's no understanding or there's no reasoning why it shouldn't be something super enjoyable. But that's just one part. There could be health issues. There could be lots of different things. In the next kind of 3 steps of this video, I'm going to talk about the big 3 areas and what you can do to help you support, to monitor what's going on. Okay, the first one is physical burnout, and this is by far probably the easiest one for you to spot, because we know when our body is tired. It's something that we can't kind of hide from. So if there's a reduce in energy, or we're constantly feeling fatigued, or if we are doing some form of physical activity, some training, we're not recovering as faster, we start to get illnesses much more often than the other people around us. Those are telltale signs that physically we are struggling and that we need to kind of pull back, take our foot off the gas and enable us to recover so that we can start to thrive and start to perform better. The next one is emotional. Now this is if we start to be irritable or we start to feel unmotivated. This is one where we need to start to stop and really check in with what's happening. As I mentioned before, that the work that we do can be highly emotive, okay? It can be really kind of get us going. And if things are not going well at work or with a partner or with kids, emotionally that can be very demanding on the system. And we have to have an understanding about that. The next one is behavioural. Now, behavioural from people outside might be quite easy for them to spot. You know, we're a little bit more snappy with the people around us. We have more emotional reactions, or we can't regulate our emotions, so we end up snapping at our kids, talking to people, we're short with people, and they get it. They see it from a mile away, but we don't. We carry on and we go along with what's happening. So think about how you're behaving, and has it changed dramatically over the last 6, 12 months? Alongside that is kind of some of the actions that we take. So we might not want to socialise as much as we want. We might not want to go out and do things. We might really want to be alone more often than potentially we used to be. So it's great for people around us to start to be able to check in and say, hey, look, are you okay? How are you doing? I'm sure there have been multiple occasions that you've seen somebody at work or a friend or even your partner or your children, you're like, right, okay, look, they're starting to change their behaviour. What is happening? And that's exactly the same for us, but we don't see it because we're in it. The good thing about burnout is that normally it doesn't just happen like a car crash. There are signs and indications along the way that it's going to happen. And it's not just one thing, it's lots of small things added up, whether they're habits or whether they're tasks that you have to do, and they just get compounded and added and added. Here are the 4 common traps that we see all the time from people who've had burnout. The first one is this mentality of always being on. You always have to be contactable. You always have to answer those clients. You always have to be training hard. You always have to be the outgoing person. All those things where we look at and we're always on, that is a surefire way to add more fuel to the fire. The next one is not taking your recovery seriously. And what do I mean by that? Well, skipping lunch, not doing physical activity, not getting enough sleep, probably drinking too much alcohol, which affects your sleep, affects your recovery, etc. All those areas, and we kind of push them to one side because we think that by not taking that lunch or not doing that hours at exercise or working late into the night or getting up in the morning is going to get us further on down the line. It might do, but then what happens when we all come crashing down? We can't go any more, so we're kind of not really going to where we need to be. We need to think about it more strategically. The next is lack of boundaries, and it is spoken about all the time. Now, whether people are like, oh, yeah, I've got to protect my boundaries, but the evidence is clear that if we don't have clear divisions between the roles that we play in, so work, family life, being a son, a husband, an athlete, whatever that looks like, and it all kind of starts to get merged into, it can become very difficult for somebody. So setting those boundaries and continually telling people about those boundaries are really important, because that is the way that you're going to be able to develop this work-life integration. You're going to be able to get things to fit in to each other because you've got clear boundaries. Imagine if you had a jigsaw puzzle and you didn't really have the lines of how to slot the puzzle in. It's impossible. Yeah, so what we need to do is we need to create those clear outlines of where this fits in and where that fits in, and that will help. The next one is self-care, and we've heard it time and time again, this idea of, if you're in a plane crash, everyone says make sure you put your oxygen mask on before the others, because how can you help? And this is it. Self-care is not being selfish, it's taking care of yourself. We are in a body that transports us, takes us to places, allows us to do things. How well are we looking after it? How much sleep are we getting? What are we fueling it with? How much fluid are we taking on board? Are we doing any mobility, stretching, ice baths, saunas? All these types of things that add up to self-care are really important. And we have to work out a way to put those systems in place. So you have to plan your week and your day to make sure that there are moments during the course of the week that you are taking care of yourselves. One of the biggest learnings that we've had in sports science or professional sports is this idea of periodization. Kind of come around from Eastern European science around how we could get the body to peak at certain points during the course of the week, the year, the month, etc. And what is clear from that is that we cannot, redline it all the time without some drop in performance. And sometimes, or most of the times, we don't know when that drop in the performance is going to happen. So by periodizing it, we could start to predict performance. And you as a dad are no different. Okay, you need to periodize what you're doing from a day-to-day point of view. So that might be that you push really hard one day. That might be that you have an easier day or there's more self-care in that day. That doesn't mean that the day that you push really hard, you don't care about yourself, you flog yourself to death. It just means that you're not going to tick all the boxes. Okay, and that builds into what we look at as sustainable high performance. What's really interesting is the people that I speak to from a corporate level, when I say to them, look, out of 100%, how well are you performing? Some of them come back and say, yeah, I'm 30%, 40%. And I think to myself, well, imagine if you told that to a client, you're only going to get 40% of me. I'm pretty sure that wouldn't go down well from a sales point of view or winning that business. And your job as a business dad is to make sure that you're stepping up and showing up when you need to, which means that you need to take care of yourself along the way. What runs alongside those common traps is 4 ways that we can reduce the effects. One is to make sure that we're having breaks during the course of the day. Okay, if I put you on a treadmill and I say you're going to run at this for 6, 7, 8 hours, eventually in your head you think, right, I can't go at the same pace, I'd need to slow down. But cognitively, we just think that we can crack on and go. So planning those breaks during the course of the day, 2, 5, 10 minutes, whatever it looks like. Breathe, move, walk, get outside in sunlight. Doesn't matter, just plan them in. The second one is, as you can imagine, is setting clear boundaries. But I would say that you need to tell people them, not just go around saying, yep, okay, I'm not going to work after this or da-da-da. You need to say to the people around you, this is the deal. This is what's happening. Unless the world is burning down or whatever it looks like, I'm not contactable. You are now moving your integration into being a dad, a parent, whatever it looks like. Okay? So they're the first 2. The third one is understanding what gives you energy, what renews your energy. Okay? So that obviously sleep is the foundation for that, but looking at what you can do in the week, the month, whether that is going out with friends or a date night or going on a trip or going for a hike or whatever it is, whatever you do and you think, right, do you know what? I've got more energy at the end of that than I had. Sometimes, especially when working with athletes in the gym, our main goal was for them to leave the gym feeling better than what they came into. And people be like, well, are you sure about that? And the idea is yes. So for example, let's just say you're a rugby player or a football player and you've had a really tough game on the weekend, your body's sore, your body's aching. Our job was for you to leave that gym feeling as if you're a little bit looser, feeling good about yourself, feeling that you're kind of setting yourself up for the next training session, day, week, game, etc. And we're no different, okay? We need to work out what is basically our return on investment. For example, if we're doing some breath work and 5 minutes of breathing makes us feel better, then that's something that we need to look at doing. The next one is, how do we go about reframing stress? Stress is everywhere. It's part of life. It's part of being a human being. We would not get to where we get to without some form of stress. Stress has helped you to pass that exam, conquer that interview, get that job, be able to provide an income for your family, to be able to maybe go on that first date with your now partner, wife, whatever. All those elements are things that are really positive that's helped us to perform. Okay? If we have this idea that stress is all bad, it's not good, we're under so much stress, the evidence is clear that we're going to be more stressed. Okay? If we think about it from a physical point of view, there's clear research where we took athletes and we put them into a gym environment and we told them that this is going to be the toughest session, this testing is going to be really hard. What do we think happens? Well, okay, Lee's telling me it's going to be hard. I'm starting to think it's going to be hard. I'm telling my body it's going to be hard. There's lots of things that are preparing us for that. And sometimes, there might be an overreaction to that. So what I'm saying is, think about it now as like, right, stress is a massive performance improver to me as long as I use it in the right way at the right time for the right thing. So ask yourself this question. Over the last week, has there been any situations where you have become stressed for no reason? And you look back at it and think, what a waste of my energy. That is key for you to think about. And I guarantee there'll be 1 or 2 things where you've got yourself so wound up that you're like, wow, that was a waste of energy. So, last one, most importantly, go about reframing stress. That's the end of the video. I hope you've enjoyed it. We've talked about burnout, the signs, what can happen, the trap that we can get into, some typical common things that people do to not help themselves, how we can start to help ourselves. I hope you've enjoyed the video. As always, subscribe if you'd like to, ring the bell. In the description is a link to the dad's test that I've got. It takes about 2-3 minutes, and you assess those areas that reduce the risk of burnout. If you'd like to do that, take a look. If there's any areas of being a dad, drop some comments below and I will make a video around it. My goal for this year is to make 12 videos, one a month. Try and keep it as consistent as possible. So if you are interested in following that journey, I suggest that you subscribe or drop me a comment. Anyway, speak to you soon. Keep being a great dad and keep performing to the best that you can.